All right. Welcome to Yapisode 16 of It's Not You, It's Me podcast. My name is Diaz Choi. I'm your host. And today I want to talk a little bit about how you present yourself, how you show up. I've talked about this in a previous episode as well. But I was talking with my girlfriend. We were talking about, we were watching this dating show and we have like nicknames for them, like for like sad boy, because he has like a kind of like a sad expression on his face. And I was thinking to myself, ooh, like I wonder if that is like genetics fully, or is it also how you naturally present yourself in a way? So, for example, RBF is a topic that we had. If you don't know what that is, that's the resting B face. You can think of it also as simply an angry resting face, right? Some people, when they're not thinking or not doing anything, their default face is an expression that may look angry or upset. And therefore, some people may be intimidated to approach them, right? And so we're kind of talking about this in the dating world in terms of there are certain features like sharp eyes, but maybe just like the lack of a smile, things like that impact how you're perceived by others. I am a naturally, I don't know if naturally is the right way to put it, but I have these facial expressions and I tend to smile with my eyes. People will generally say that I look friendly, easy to talk to, easy to approach. I'm sure that I could be more intimidating if I wanted to be when I don't want to be bothered. I know that for sure when I'm focused, I look kind of weird. I used to stream video games on Twitch, and when I'm like really concentrating, I don't think I look that good. I am definitely not an entertainer to that degree on Twitch. I don't think I'm very reactive to a lot of things. I can be expressive. I like to tell stories and I do laugh at things, but it's not like I'm overly reactive. I'm not typically surprised that much. I guess maybe that's maybe I don't even know myself. Maybe I am. I don't know what my friends would describe me as. That being said, in this dating show, this guy, he just has such a sad looking face. And that is not to say he is ugly or anything like that. It's just kind of one of those things where like I wonder how the participants feel in that show when they're going on dates with this guy, when they see kind of that expression, whether they really want to engage with him fully or open. It's kind of like one of those things where yes, you would want to get to know someone for who they are more than your first impressions. And at the same time, I do feel there is at least a little correlation. I think we have impressions and intuitions about people and how we see them and how we perceive them for a good reason, right? It's our brain telling us like a prediction of concern and worry in case they might be people who you don't want to interact with. And there's other ones that you may feel more safe with. And very fair and frankly, we could be wrong, right? That first impression can be wrong. And I think that's also for me personally a spice of life. Like it's enjoyable to see someone who's different and be pleasantly surprised to see a different side of them and enjoy in who they are. When you get closer with people, when you get to see a different side of them, I think it's nice. It's just like, oh, I didn't know you had this, I don't know, playful side. I didn't know you could laugh like that. It's interesting that you're embarrassed by that. I don't think it's a big deal, but there's different ways we could get to know someone on a deeper level. And so this season of the dating show that we're watching is like a golden miss season. This is only a Korean thing. What does that mean? It means these are women who are older in age, successful, typically in their careers. They're like independent and they just haven't gotten married. The participants are average citizens. I don't know if average is even the right way to put it, but they're not celebrities. The women participants are right around 39, 38, and the men are right around that age too, or over 40 plus. I think the oldest guy was 46. Anyway, it's easy to criticize them when we're watching these shows, right? Where as a form of discussion and dialogue and commentary, where we kind of make these observations. It's interesting how people show up in this show. So one of these comments that we had was the sad boy. I don't know who would be interested in talking with him. Similarly, for the women's side, it's kind of clear that there are some women who just don't have what I would call presence. And maybe that's basically what I'm talking about in this episode. This idea of presence. Introverted people tend to have a lower profile presence because they don't like to be so energetic around others. Not that they can't be. I think in a more intimate setting with close people that they can be themselves, which may include them being louder than they would be in public. And when you see them in a public setting, you might see them as someone with low energy, like their presence isn't really there. It really depends. I think there are people who are introverted who have immense presence. And so I'm not saying that maybe I'm just giving really bad examples. This perception of who are you naturally attracted to and who are naturally attracted to you. And I do believe that's something that we can, I don't know if I want to say, I think that's something that we can control to a certain degree, right? So, for example, if I'm playing games, I like to play board games, for example. If I'm playing board games and I'm interactive and kind of bantering and having fun, it'd be a different experience if I were to be a lot more quiet, right? Like if I were just focusing on my own calculations, how to win the board game, and not really talking or interacting or laughing or whatever, make just purely focus. And so maybe that's an extreme, but it's clearly that experience you have with someone is very different. And I think that's what people talk about with respect to vibe. How much do you vibe with someone? And I think that you don't always have to vibe with someone right away because when you're getting to know somebody, you're basically not yourself. If you're able to be yourself, great. I think the average person doesn't know how to really be themselves. Or I don't know if that's even the right way to put it. I shared in a previous episode how that's not very good advice about being yourself. The point is when two people who are strangers meet, they're figuring out how to interact, what is appropriate, because there's no rules, there's no agreed upon etiquette on how people behave. And I think that's why we naturally find and gravitate towards people who share similar interests, who are like us, right? We don't really try to fit in with people who aren't like us, who don't think like us. And in those different circles, we have unspoken rules or behaviors, etiquettes that may not be the same wherever you go. For example, as someone who's trying to get into fitness, I have not really gone to a gym because I don't know gym etiquette. I don't know how to interact with people there, how to use the weights, how to clean up after myself, like wipe the sweat, whatever it may be. I don't really know fully that etiquette. And so there's a part of me that's unsure how to interact with people there. How do I navigate that? Here's another example. Back when you played in the arcades, you may have seen this example in Wreck-It Ralph. They're playing video games at the arcade, and they will put the coin, like a quarter, that is used to play. And if you were next in line, you would put the coin down. So there's certain etiquettes and behaviors. I think another simple example might be going to church. Someone who's not Christian who comes to church, they don't know how they're supposed to behave at church. If they're not believers, they might consider themselves sinners, and that they may not fit in. That everything is weird, and that's very understandable too, right? And so, whenever we're in an unfamiliar place, we have a different vibe and different presence that we exhibit, and we need to be careful how we judge that of each other. And that being said, there is definitely something you can do to present something that's more authentic to who you are. And so this is another example that I was hearing about. That I hear very often, and it's not uncommon. It's exactly, I think it's very very interesting to meet someone who will say, "I've never had any experience dating." The younger generation, I mean, I would even say my generation, that is not uncommon to hear, and that impacts how they show up in a relationship. If they're anxious because they've never been on a date, they may be questioning how afraid they are. They might be like, "Oh, like, will they like me? Like, will they see that the fact that I have no dating experience, is that a negative thing?" And so you get all worried. And so that's one example of how you show up in a way that's fearful. And let's say that you're still wanting to date, but you're not afraid of the fact that you don't have experience. And so you might show up as like, "Oh yeah, like I'm interested in getting to know people. I've never dated before, but I have many friends and I've seen them in relationships and I like what I see, or I am interested in developing a romantic relationships I've seen around me." And so comparing these two examples where one is more nervous about a date because they don't have never had an experience versus the other one who's kind of adventurous. They share the same attributes. I don't know, stats. They share the same aspect in terms of that they've never dated before, but how they show up is completely different. And you can argue that's personality, but you can also argue that it's how they're choosing to show up based on the information they have. Are they seeing that information? Some people might describe it as story that they're telling themselves. It's like, oh, this is a negative trait of mine, the fact that I've never dated before. The other person just treats it as a fact. And so another example is another worry that I see online is people with kids, like single mothers, maybe single fathers as well. This idea of when do I bring up the conversation that I have a kid? And so for one party, it could be very heavy and nervous. It's just like, oh, like it shows that I've had a failed relationship before, or that maybe that I'm irresponsible for having a kid out of wedlock, whatever it may be, whatever story that they're telling themselves. It might be more heavy responsibility and like a sense of, I don't know, a sense of shame is the right way to put it. And let's, even if it weren't a kid, maybe it's a past health history, right? It's kind of like these personal details that you may feel that it's a little difficult to bring up early on in a relationship. And some people will show up that way where it's very heavy to bring it up. And so when they bring it up, it's like you can feel the heaviness of how they share. And again, on the flip side, someone can share that just as a matter of fact without that energy. Here's an example. So with the kid example, right? It's just like you can show up as like you're just sharing, right? You're in a date, you're like, oh, I don't know how to bring this up, but I have a kid. And I don't know if that impacts how you see me as a dating potential, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying that as more of a very upfront, honest disclosure. There's another way to do that where you can not treat that as, again, as so heavy. You could be like, oh, like you have, I think you're very cute. Not as cute as my, I don't know, let's say I have a daughter. Not as cute as my daughters, but you have a cute smile. Right. And so, in a bantering, joking way, you have interacted with someone, basically flirted with someone, and lightheartedly threw in the fact that you had a daughter. And not to say like that wasn't, it's just like, it's just fact, right? It's not something that was so heavy and worrisome. It's just like, yeah, I have a daughter. And if they want to continue, if the person receiving that compliment and they wanted to respond to the flirting, they can probably make sure, are you married? Right? Just to make sure that it's not inappropriate. You don't want to be a home wrecker. But again, there's this energy difference in terms of how you show up and how you disclose this thing. People tend to mirror your emotions. And so if you treat it like a big deal, then they, out of respect and politeness, will treat it as a big deal. I don't know how often people realize that they have the capability of telling facts without so much energy. The impressions and the wording and how you show up impacts the atmosphere. And so this is something I also say in dating apps too. When people ask me how I should, especially for women, what they write on dating apps. Some women will write, "I don't want this, this, and this," and I think that's all right to state for certain things. And when people write things that they don't want, it gives them off a vibe of, ooh, they're kind of like judgy. They don't like these things and they don't want these things. Versus the flip side, when you say, I want this in my partner, I want that in my partner. And obviously that also has its connotations and vibes depending on what you put there. But there's a different vibe between what you're avoiding versus what you're going towards, what you're wanting, what you're seeking. Vibes is not a logical thing. It's a very feeling based thing. And if we banter, right, if we throw in a little joke here, how is it received? If I say something, how do they like it? And so one of the things people say, one of the obvious signs whether someone likes, when a woman likes a guy, a man, they often laugh at everything that he says, even though it's not funny. There may be signs that they may do that they unknowingly do. And so it's kind of interesting to see this behavior and this dynamic. And the more you're aware of how you're behaving in these situations, the more you can recognize in reading these cues about people and how they behave, and also being aware of how you want to show up to people. Some people think that it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much work. I have to think about so many things. Like, I understand. And that's a natural feeling. It feels like you might be you have to play this game. You have to fit this mold. You have to behave and act prim and proper. And it sounds so tiring. And if that's what you believe it to be, then it will be. Absolutely. I don't think that it has to be that way. It can be very simple, right? And so again, if I were to say on a dating app, oh, just share about what you like. What do you enjoy? Share more about who you are in that way, more of the things that you're drawn towards. And so, yeah, that reminds me, I was recently helping a friend with their dating app. And I just simply asked them, yeah, what do you like to do in your spare time? Like, what do you do for your hobbies? And they said, I like going to concerts, live concerts. I was just like, oh, has there been anyone you've gone to recently? And like, do you have any photos of those? Those are things that you may want to include in your profile, right? Just so that people understand that, oh, like you like to go to concerts, live music, like that's something that you really enjoy. And the question is also, oh, would you want your partner to go with you? Do you really care? And so some people would want like a rave bay, as they call it, right, for EDM, and they want to go together and have a good time. And there's some people who don't care, right? They don't need that partnership. They just need someone to understand that this is something that they really like and enjoy. And so if they go out for a concert, that they won't be moping around that they're not at home with them, right? Or something like that. Like that they're gonna mope when they travel. And so these things are important in terms of to describe what you're like, who you are, and what you want. Because if people don't like who you are, then they weren't a good fit for you anyway. And so this goes back to having kids or having a health history or any negative feature about you that you think is negative. I was going to say one attribute about me that's surprising, but I'm also thankful is when I was transitioning between being a professor and becoming a relationship coach, I wasn't working and I was still dating. And there were women who definitely gave me a chance, right? Like I felt that I wasn't dating material because I wasn't financially stable. And I felt like that was such a negative. That didn't stop me from dating, but I was also upfront about it. And I think I was very just letting them know honestly. It wasn't a heavy thing. It was just like, this is just my situation. I'm working on these things. I'm finding a direction and X, Y, and Z. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Women who are comfortable with that and people I matched said that was fine. And I found that to be very gracious of them. And I also realized like that's not really me, right? Like I'm going to get a job or I'm going to be able to make money. I'm just not making money now. And I can understand that's not true for everybody. That's uh, some people may struggle for much longer, may not be as ambitious or as resourceful. And that's the truth. So not to knock on anyone's decision not to give people a chance. It's just a matter of there are people who are willing to see you for who you are and willing to see and give you a chance to be who you are. And they like who you are. Rather than pinning all your hopes on doing a date correctly, I think just forget whether they're like the best person or like a good match or not. Just are you interested in going on a second date with them? Just very simply, would you want to spend more time with them? Are you interested in getting to know them? Like, what is the feel that you have versus like, oh, like he doesn't have a job. Like, so I'm not even saying date for potential, right? Like, because for me, it's dating for potential in the sense of if I don't have a job and I'm saying I'm going to get a job in the future, that's not reality right now, right? That's dating for potential in the future. And I can completely understand that people don't want to do that because there's no guarantee, right? And that's fine. Those people are not the ones for you. And so there's no hopes that I pin on someone to say like, oh my gosh, like they have to love me when I don't have a job. It's not like that. It's more of, oh, like this person finds me interesting and I find them interesting. And this is just a journey of our life that we're on. And that's kind of like, how do you show up? How do you understand people's situation? And what are you willing to tolerate? And I think maybe that's also the issue. I think some people are willing to tolerate so much bad before they leave. Maybe that's a different story. We're talking about presence and what people look like, what people do. If people want to be more joyful in their life, I think they have to practice being joyful, right? It's not something that happens out of thin air. And I think I talked about miracles in a previous episode as well. These ideas of miracles are basically things that you would not ordinarily do, right? These are extraordinary things. And the more we practice that, it becomes ordinary. And if we want being joyful to be ordinary, then we need to be perhaps in a more extraordinary way, joyful in our interactions, in our behaviors, in our mindfulness, in our actions, whatever it may be. I want people to enjoy building relationships. I don't want them to be afraid of doing so. I want people to connect. And I guess maybe I'll end the podcast with this. In every form of media, like entertainment, movies, TV shows, books, there are main characters with flaws. And yes, those flaws get them in trouble. And yet we root for them. We want them to succeed. And so we call that the hero's journey for a lot of storytelling. They often might cause issues because of their flaws. And then when they mature and grow, they learn from them, they transform, and we root for them. I want people to realize that people are the main character of their own story, and that if people really got to know them, they'd be rooting for them. And in every relationship, I want them to be successful. I'm rooting for everybody. I want them to be able to build meaningful, deep connections with people because I think that is what sustains us in our life. We can't live on our own. Did that turn too deep? Anyways, we'll stop here. If you made it this far, thank you again. I guess I launched a workshop. I should put the information in the link down below. There's a workshop that I'm doing the pilot version of for the first time. And yeah, I mean, if you're interested, it's about one of the previous episodes on I feel statements. If you've heard that and you've practiced it, then you probably don't need to sign up for it. But if you feel like, let's get some practice and understand exactly how I feel statements work, then sign up. I'd be happy to see you and let me know. So that will be next Thursday, June 5th at 7 p.m. Central. I'm sure that the link to the event will give you the time for your time zone. It'll be online. And so if you're there, I'll see you there. And if not, I hope to see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.